8 modifications that you can do to make your Saab 9.5 more reliable. Generally, when you're talking about modifications and reliability do not go hand in hand, except in these 8 instances where these are specific modifications that you can do to your car to make it more reliable. Now, recently I did a video on the NG93 discussing modifications you can do to this car to make it more reliable. You can check that out in the top corner. I don't have a 9.5 currently, so we'll just pop one right there in the background and pretend that this is a 9.5 for the next few minutes. All 8 of these items are not maintenance. They are actual modifications and changes that you can do to your 9.5 to improve the reliability. These all apply to the original Saab 9.5, which was made from 1998 to 2009. And some of these actually also apply to the old generation 9.3, maybe even the 9000, and some of the other Saabs that use the original B-series motors, such as the B235 that came in most of the 9.5s. So let's get started. The first modification that you can do to increase reliability of your 9.5, this applies to early 9.5 owners, specifically if you own a 1998 to 2003 9.5, and that is a PCV update. The early 9.5s are known for having PCV problems as well as sludge issues. This was remedied in later 9.5s, 2004 and newer, and thankfully eSaab Parts sells a kit that you can kind of update the entire PCV system to the newer style on your older 9.5. So that's going to increase reliability and prevent issues down the road. Number 2 is the idle pulley delete. So the 9.5 serpentine belt, it goes through quite a complicated path around the side of the motor, and one of those items that it passes through is an idle pulley that kind of sits right in the middle of the cylinder head. This idler pulley is known for causing issues. When I had my 9.5, mine actually failed. It caused me to throw my serpentine belt multiple times before I finally realized that, hey, you can just delete that pulley entirely and actually replace it with a shorter belt. What many people do is delete that pulley entirely and just install a shorter belt. There are 2 different shorter belts that you can use. I will put the number for both of those on the screen right here. And huge shout out to the 9.5 owners group who gave me a ton of great information for this video. Some fantastic subject matter experts. But number 3, this is probably one of my favorite mods on this list, and that is a head plug from genuine Saab. On most of the B-series Saab motors, there's a little plug on the side of the cam cover that just tends to leak over time. So one solution that genuine Saab has come up with is called a head plug, which is a little machined plug that is a fantastic cosmetic upgrade as well as a practical upgrade as well. That kind of just screws right into the side of the head. It's going to seal that area a whole lot better and prevent you from having oil leaks. Number 4 is window rollers. This is one I was hoping people would have some suggestions for, because the window rollers on the 9.5s, I don't know why I keep pointing back here like this is a 9.5, but the window rollers on the 9.5 are quite weak and just known for failing when you're rolling the windows up and down. They can break out of nowhere, and then you're kind of stuck with a window that's either up or down or somewhere in between. So what do people do to fix that? Well, you can of course just buy another Saab window roller. They're very cheap parts, but that doesn't really fix the problem because it might fail again in the future. So some people have discovered that there are square blue Volvo window rollers that work as a replacement. I also saw that people use BMW window rollers. Just a good little upgrade to help prevent your window rollers from just disintegrating randomly. The 5th modification on this list is the coolant bypass valve delete. The coolant bypass valve is situated on the back side of the engine bay, kind of near the bottom against the firewall. It's in a very difficult spot to replace. I actually had to replace it on my 9.5. I'll link that video in the top corner. And had I known at the time, I probably wouldn't have replaced it with another bypass valve. I would have just done what's called the delete. It's considered to be a needlessly complex part for the most part. And so a lot of people, when they fail, will just delete that. And there's a fantastic forum that I'll put on the screen here that kind of explains that in more detail and why you should consider just removing that part. But if that coolant bypass valve does fail, you could end up with coolant all over your garage floor, all over the road, or wherever, and could be stuck. So good little upgrade to do. The sixth one is kind of a cosmetic modification, as much of it is almost a money-saving modification in my opinion, and that is rear control arm upgrades or getting camber shims. So one of the things that I really dislike about the 9.5s from factory is that the rear wheels sit very inward. They have a ton of camber on them. This is not a serious reliability issue, but it can cause your tires, for example, to wear a lot quicker. So people have actually come up with a couple of different solutions for this. Number one that I saw recommended the most was getting Saturn rear control arms, which they look like they're adjustable, which obviously would allow you to adjust the camber on there a lot better than you could with the 9.5 control arms. And the second suggestion I saw was just getting shims that I believe Genuine Saab sells that you can just stick in there to help fix the camber, kind of put those wheels upright a bit more and prevent that excessive tire wear and just really bad looking fitment. The seventh modification here only applies to the manual 9.5s. And that is upgrading the shifter bushings. As these 9.5s and cars in general tend to age, things like bushings stop doing their job and stop being bushings. And that essentially in the manual 9.5s can mean the car could get a little bit hard to put into gear. It might not want to go into gear super smoothly. It's just going to create a sloppy shifter feel, which for someone who's an enthusiast is definitely not what you want. Thankfully, however, MapTune and a couple other companies have come up with a solution for that, which features an upgraded bushing kit and a fix that's going to really tighten up that shifter feeling as well as the gear linkage and just sort out that whole mess so it feels a lot more clean and crisp and really enhances your drivability and just feel of the transmission. There are two kits for this. There's an earlier version of the kit and then there's a later version, depends on what 9.5 you have. So make sure if you buy this to pay attention, make sure you get the one for the right year. Number 8, and this is a copy from my 9.3 video, is upgrading any rubber hoses and lines with silicone alternatives. So these earliest 9.5s, believe it or not, are approaching 30 years old, which is just crazy to think about. And as cars age, any car ages, rubber hoses, rubber vacuum lines, whether they're coolant hoses, intake hoses, whatever it may be, just tend to get hard, brittle. They're not as flexible as they used to be. So one great little upgrade that you can do to help improve all of that in every type of hose aspect is to replace that with silicone. A lot of people do that with vacuum lines, for example, but companies like DO88 actually offer full kits for intake hoses, radiator hoses, intercooler hoses, everything that'll kind of upgrade that. It's not only going to look better and function better, it's going to be a lot more durable, stiff, and will kind of help your performance at the same time. But that's all I have. There are 8 modifications to help improve the reliability of your 9.5. I know that if I own a 9.5 again in the future, I will definitely be doing many of these to help get the car as reliable as possible. Now, of course, maintenance is crucial in keeping any car reliable, so make sure to stay up to date on maintenance on your 9.5 or whatever car you may be driving. If you have any suggestions to add to this list, because I did get a lot more than just these 8, but I wanted to keep it quick and concise for the sake of the video, please leave those down below in the comments along with a detailed description of that modification. But that's all for today. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Special thank you to the 9.5 Facebook group again for their help with putting this together, and I'll see you in the next video.